Shalom. We're in the book of Deuteronomy, Devarim, which means words, the repeating of the words of the Torah. We're in Parashah Vayetchanan, that means, and I pleaded. And these are the words of Moses, pleading with Yahweh to let him enter the promised land. And Yahweh said no. Now, first and foremost, when I looked at the different topics of this parasha, the main premise of this parasha is a message to spiritual leaders, first and foremost. And it's in line with the message that applies to Moses, as well as to a few other things that I discovered. So I'm going to share one of those little gems that I discovered in this parasha, and it has to do with what is associated with the word Vayetchanan. I can't remember whether I've done it, but I'm going to do it again. I'm just going to unpack the meanings of the Hebrew letters of Vayetchanan, just to reveal what it means in itself and what does the pleading of Moshe in the conversation with Yahweh implies. What is behind it? Where is the hope and where's the outcome? Because it seems like a desperate situation for Moshe. He knew what Yahweh said, he knew what he did. He's a spiritual leader and he's now desperate and he's crying out to Yahweh. Now, Vayetchanan is the Hebrew letters a Vav, and then there's a Aleph Taf, then there's a Chet, and there's a double Nun. Now, for you who've been with us for a while, you'll know that the letter Vav means man. Then we have the Aleph Taf. Now, that's similar to the Alpha and Omega, and that's a symbol of Yeshua HaMashiach, Yeshua the Messiah. And connected to the Vav that's on the right means he was God coming into the flesh, doing the work of the Aleph Taf. Aleph Taf, of course, is the beginning and the end. And it's also from Bereshit to Devarim and the work of Mashiach. It's also from Pesach to Sukkot, the beginning and the end. So all the topics that connects to beginning and end, that is what the work of Mashiach is all about. Now, the final work of Mashiach, of course, is the repeating of the Torah, and that's what we discovered last week. So we're going to continue with that, but focusing on the leaders. Before we jump into that, let me continue. Then you get, after the Aleph Taf, I'm moving from right to left, you have the letter Chet. What does Chet mean? Chet, last week we discovered, is one of the doorways, the entry points into the city. It's also the entry point that leads to the tree of life. It's also the Chet that is the picture of the blood on the doorpost. It's also the letter that means life. So it's a letter or the entry point that leads to eternal life, or Chai Olam. So that is what the work of Mashiach is all about, is to open up the doorway so we can walk through into Chai Olam. And the first person we face when we walk through that door is the Aleph Taf. And then we enter into the elevated state, which is the final Vav on the right, which is the elevated man, or the restoration of man, or the renewed body, whatever you wish to apply to that letter Vav. Now, next to the Chet, to the left, we have the double Nun. A double Nun gives us two meanings. The first one is double fruitfulness. Nun means fish, means fruitfulness as well. It's also a Paleo-Hebrew symbol of the males, or the sperm coming from the male, the seed that brings life, and fruitfulness, multiple children, generations coming forth from, also new people being born into the kingdom. That's what the double Nun represent. And it's also the meaning of Ephraim, that means double fruitfulness. So we see that the tribe of Ephraim, which is prophetic, found in the prophecy of the two sticks, the stick of Judah and the stick of Ephraim. The two sticks will come together, and that will be at the end, and that will be in the hand of Mashiach. So the work of Mashiach is happening through Ephraim as well as through Judah. Through Ephraim, through Christianity, missionaries people coming to faith, spreading the gospel, people coming into the kingdom, and then the refinement process is supposed to happen, which currently not really happen very well, into refining them into the kingdom of priests so they can be prepared, and then also refining them to become part of the army of Yahweh, which is the preparation for the people of Israel, the righteous people of Elohim, to prepare as soldiers prior to crossing the Jordan, which is a prophetic picture of the end times and the great tribulation. And they will then come against the enemy. There will also be the kingdom of priests. There will also be the mothers that will nurture the new babies. The double noon people will come in through fruitfulness and the birth, which is the great tribulation, and they will receive the great atonement, which is also great tribulation, and they will cross over into the promised land, which is the new kingdom. So that's the one meaning of the double noon. The other meaning of the double noon gives us a time frame. Now, the double noon is also the two fish, which is a symbol of the age of Pisces. The age of Pisces, also known as the age of the Gentiles, and the age of the Gentiles span from this point in time backwards 2,000 years. It's a 2,000 years age, and it's the age between the two comings of Mashiach, the first coming and the second coming. And that is where Ephraim will be fishers of men, and that's where the symbolism of the double moon and Ephraim come into play. The other stick, Judah, their part to play as part of the work of Mashiach is the Torah. They got the Torah. They've got the scepter between their feet as the lion, and they will rule with this scepter. And that's also the King of Judah, the Lion of Judah, the Mashiach, who will then take up the scepter and rule the kingdom from the mountain. And it's also given, as we saw last week, to the fourth church, which will rule with a rod of iron. And that rod of iron is none other than the Torah, which they will smash the clay pots, smash them the pottery, which is a symbol of brokenness, where people will come to faith, have brokenness, accept the Torah, and accept the Mashiach, the kingdom, and the foundation of the kingdom, and the government system of the kingdom. So that's just the word Ve'et Hanan. Now, what I actually want to get to is the word that sits in line with that is the word Chenan, that means grace. So that is the whole foundation of everything, is the grace of Yahweh. Now, when you look at the root word of Chenan, it's the word Chena, that means to encamp, to pitch a tent, and to rest. That is the end, Sukkot. That is where we are heading towards. And we see that in the word Ve'et Hanan as well. Now, where this word Hanan is first used is in Genesis 26, where King Abimelech asked Isaac to leave the land, and Isaac went back and opened up the fountains or the wells of Father Abraham. And he did that in a place called Gerar, that means chew the cud. So now we have two new themes within this whole setting of the last generation entering the promised land, crossing the Jordan or the Great Tribulation, and their preparation has to do with opening the wells. Who opened the well? It was Isaac. Isaac's a picture of Mashiach. He's opening the wells to give living water. We see that in the New Testament. Springs of living water will flow from your innermost being, and that's basically the Torah revealed through the Spirit. And the task for leaders is to be like Mashiach, opening up the wells of Abraham. And Abraham links to Genesis 15 promise, which is the promise of the covenant. And linking to Moshe, it's the covenant expressed through the 10 words and the 10 commandments. And that is basically what we see through the symbolism of the well. Now, what the other part is relating to the flock or the congregation, which is the chewing the cud. So chewing the cud is related to sheep, a kosher animal, which need a shepherd. The shepherd will lead them to green pastures, which associate with the waters coming from this well of Abraham, and they will then have to chew the cud. That's their job. And chewing the cud is to swallow the grass, the new green pastures, as depicted in Psalm 23. Yeshua our Mashiach is our shepherd, through the Spirit leading us to those green pastures, which are these little wells all over the world, which are assemblies embracing the Torah. And that's where you will drink the water or eat the green grass, and you now have to bring it back up and chew it again, meditate upon it, so it will do a deep work within your soul, within your mind, within your body. So you need to digest it thoroughly and get it into your system. So that's where the Torah cycle comes in. So wherever you go to a congregation where the Torah is taught through the Torah cycle, which I think is the most important topic for people to discuss in this point in time, is then to go back after that to your home, meditating on that word, or preparing for the next one, meditating on that portion, so you can glean the information that Yahweh wants us to know for this point in time, as preparing for the kingdom of priests, the mother, as well as the army of Yahweh. So that is our job, is to chew the cud, and we see all of that connected to V'yetchanan, just the name of this parasha. Very, very rich topic. I'm very excited to share all the detail with you. We're going to delve into a few interesting ideas, interesting things, but specifically the message to leaders, and then also there's the message to the followers or the flock. So I'll leave you with that, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll speak to you soon. Shalom.